Well, g'day, Melbourne, Sydney, rest of Australia. Melbourne, Sydney, about 4 p.m. And I'm broadcasting from the UK, where I'm based for the next 12 months while I'm doing some study. And yeah, I just want to welcome you. It's Friday, and if you're in Australia, it's Friday afternoon. Hospitality industry in the main, unless you've been running or you are running a daytime cafe, you're probably expecting the bulk of your trading over the next 48 hours. So I just wanted today to talk about value and why it's so important and why it's possibly the the first thing that we want to put on the agenda, on the strategic agenda for um, for moving forward over the next few months and maybe a bit longer. So we know from the Future of Hospitality monthly briefing that many of you come to, that we know all the different aspects of external factors that are influencing our current trading, and we know through the newsletters that I'm sharing each week what some of those bigger issues are as we break them down each week and talk about them. And then these daily lives are very much around taking bite-sized chunks and just having a chat about them for 15 to 30 minutes. And I think the concept of these are the specials board every day that changes every day within the context of an Italian restaurant or a Spanish restaurant or whatever. So we're always talking about things that are going to impact hospitality business owners and their ability to survive and thrive. But there's so many bite-sized chunks that we can dig into. So that's what I want to do today. Talk about value. So, I'm really talking about value for money and perceived value by our customers, which is really the key thing. So I just want to share with you something McKinsey put out a couple of days ago, maybe yesterday even. And it's just reinforcing. I've shown a few of these charts over the last few months, and they're increasingly moving towards this very strong message that consumers are trading down. Basically, is sort of what it's called, and it essentially means they're not going to their usual places. They're going to a place where they perceive they're going to get greater value for money. Now, with this chart, what the main the bar on the left is basically telling us that 74% of consumers. This is in the US, but it's useful. It's a useful guide and a trend to what's happening in other places. And we've got to grab research where we can get it because things are changing so quickly. If we can get some research that gives us an indication what might be happening or about to happen in our own marketplace, then it's really, really useful to be able to get some insights into what might happen here. So in the US, between this is May, June, July, that sort of 3-month period. 74% of US consumers took action to trade down. Now, the bars on the right-hand side, the 5 bars on the right-hand side, talk about the action they took, right? So 60% of people adjusted, and this is, it's called shopping behavior, but it's mainly supermarkets and necessities. Although there are some things that aren't necessities included in here. So 60% adjusted the quantity pack size, 44% delayed purchase, and the qualitative, some of the qualitative answers that came out of that were around those things that they delayed purchase on being non-necessities. 37% changed retailers for a lower price or discount store. Now, I put a I think it was about a week ago. It was only Monday of this week. We did the last monthly industry insights and key challenges briefing, and in the latest information I had at that point was that I think it was 27% of consumers had switched down to discounters, or switched over to discounters from different and this was supermarket categories. So whether it was a supermarket, a hypermarket, a specialty grocery store, about 27% of consumers had changed from their normal brand, their normal place where they were loyal to spend their money on food, and they were going to somewhere else. So this is now saying that we're up to about 37%. This is going to increase, right? This is going to, with inflation going through the roof, this is going to increase. And this is one of the main drivers for me wanting to talk about value for money. So changed their brand, or moved to a lower price, or private label was 26%, and used a buy now pay later program was 21%. So some big takeouts here in terms of what people are doing in the sort of the necessities area of shopping, food shopping, basically, that we can learn from. So what it means for us, and I just want to show you another. I'll show you another graph. It's in the same. There's some really cool stuff in here that I'll go through. I'll put some of this stuff in the next newsletter. But this one, this is the change in spend over the last couple of years, in particular sectors. So the middle one here is restaurants, and I've just got hold of this report within hours. So what I'll do for the newsletter is I'll highlight the middle restaurant section, and I'll make it a lot bigger and easier to see. But let me tell you what it's telling us. It's telling that the gray area in that restaurants chart in the middle is during COVID, and the gray area is negative growth. So that's essentially spending went down, right? And then the blue is spending going up. And what you can see is that immediately as places opened up after COVID, there was a big spend. And you all know this. People came out and they wanted to spend their money. And we all thought that it was going to be wonderful, except for the fact we didn't have any staff, right? So the biggest challenge 6 months ago and 3 months ago was that we didn't have any staff. The biggest challenge now is rising prices and customers not wanting to spend their money. So the blue shows us that immediately after the pandemic, which is about halfway through the timeline on that chart, that that people came out and spent loads of money. And then in the last 3 months, you can see that it's dropped off. And you can see it's actually dropping off towards negative growth. So where the dark line on that chart is the average of all sectors. So restaurants just as the restrictions disappeared, the spend in restaurants was a lot higher than the average across all sectors. That's why you can see the black line against the blue. And then the last few months, it's come down to about what was happening across most sectors. And we're actually, it's a bit hard to see on this small chart, but restaurant spend is now below, the growth is below all sectors. So this is this is really powerful stuff if we understand it strategically for our businesses. So what I want to talk about is value for money. So we've gone through this period of time where 6 months ago we started to see some cost prices going up, and most of you would have started to put prices up to customers because prices were going up to you. Some of you held off because you didn't want to pass those on because you thought it might be a temporary thing, or you didn't really understand what you could do with price, or it scared you to put your prices up because you thought you might lose customers. But generally speaking, increasingly over the last few months, more hospitality business leaders have understood that you've got to push some of these prices up, push your own prices up to follow the cost prices that you're enjoying. Now, the danger is in an environment where customers have plenty of money. That's possibly a sustainable strategy. But in an environment where we're also seeing recessionary behavior, we're also seeing customers actually not wanting to spend their money and having less money to start with in their discretionary kitty, right? So their food's costing them more, their energy's costing them more, their fuel's costing them more. And the bit that's left, which used to be on average about 30 to 35% for most people, not for the poorest people, but the poorest people aren't eating in most of the cafes and restaurants and pubs. They're eating elsewhere. But the people that we broadly serve are have got about 30 to 35%, had about 30 to 35% of their income as discretionary spend. Now, we know from various research, and I've presented this in other forums, in the monthly forums, that disposable income is going down towards 25%. And it will continue to go down as inflation goes up, right? People are going to have less to spend on discretionary stuff because they're spending more on essentials. And in the UK, for instance, energy bills on average per household are going from £1,900 a year about now to I think it's £4,400 per year by April next year. So within 6 or 7 months, household energy bills are going to be more than doubled because the government's allowed energy companies, that the cap that they apply to energy companies controlling the limit they can charge households, they've allowed it to be lifted. So we've got less disposable income. The lesser disposable income is making people make choices about where they spend their money. They're more discerning about where they are, when they're going to go out, where they're going to go out to, what they're going to buy. So all the occasions for visit to cafes, restaurants, pubs, bars are changing. So people they might still do the special occasions. They might still do their Friday and Saturday nights, but they might not do the extra nights during the week, right? They might get coffee so many days a week, but not necessarily every day. They might get one coffee instead of their normal two. They're going to think about where they spend their money. Now that sounds like a nightmare, and it is for the industry. Don't get me wrong. This is a nightmare for the industry, and these were warning bells that I decided to start calling in April, after I'd done a series of lives in February called Hospitality Conversations, where some of these issues were starting to show their head. Like several months ago, before it was in the media, before it was really common knowledge in the industry. So I was really concerned about the impact the multiple external events that are all coming together at the same time are having on you guys. And my big concern is people losing their livelihoods, whether you're employed by somebody else or it's your business. There's a lot of livelihoods at stake. And even bigger than that, in a way, is the level of burnout that the industry is going to experience as people get more stressed and people are pushed to the limit to keep their businesses alive. So So we now know. When I called it out in April, a lot of people were saying that it was going to be short-lived, or it wasn't the problem that I was suggesting it was. But the industry is now in a real precarious place. That said, the astute operators will always do well in hard times because they'll take the challenges and they'll turn them into opportunities. So let me give you an example. Most businesses are now pushing their prices up, right? Now let's just use an example dish of spaghetti bolognese, and it's an Italian restaurant or a wine bar with mainly Italian food. And the spaghetti bolognese, just the price keeps going up. We know beef's going up in price, right? We know that the other ingredients are going up. So we're pushing the price of our spaghetti bolognese dish up and up and up. Now, people will only pay so much for the same spaghetti bolognese dish. They actually will stop paying an increased price. It's called price elasticity, and it's a thing. And people will go to a certain point before they go, nah, not doing this anymore. Now, that's in normal situations where price is the only variable. Now they've got less money in their pocket. So they're coming into your place. This is not everybody's got less money in their pocket, but most have. So they're coming into your place. They're coming into this Italian restaurant or this wine bar that serves Italian food. They love your spaghetti bolognese. You do this best spaghetti bolognese in the area. They've always been coming. They've been coming to your place for years, right? But your prices have gone up. They've gone up maybe 25, 30%. And they go, we just can't do this. We're going to do something else. So they've got a choice. They either buy something less expensive on your menu, but all your other prices have gone up as well. Or they basically go, well, let's go and have a look somewhere else. Let's see whether we can get something else somewhere else. And there's lots of people offering discounts. There's lots of people offering all sorts of deals. So they go to somewhere else and they spend less money in absolute terms, less dollars or pounds, and they feel like they've saved some money, right? They feel like it's not your spaghetti bolognese that they love and cherish, but it's somebody else's spaghetti bolognese and they got it for less dollars. And right now, that's what counts. And that's exactly what's happening in the supermarket sector. People are going, well, I enjoy my Coles or my Woolworths particular item, but I'm going to go to Aldi in the UK. That's in Australia, for those in the UK. For those of you in the UK, you might like Sainsbury's or Waitrose, and you decide you're going to go to Aldi or Lidl for more things than you would normally do, or for all your things, because the reality is that you can save maybe 20% of your weekly bill, and that 20% isn't worth the perceived brand value of going to Waitrose, right? And carrying those Waitrose carrier bags out. So what I'm doing with my own clients at the moment is working on strategies to not just maintain margin by pushing prices up, because that's what we were doing 3 to 6 months ago, because that was important to do it. But now the businesses that are going to win are the businesses that are going to start redesigning and reimagining and reinventing their menu, and taking the essence of what you've always delivered, right? So understanding why people come to your place, and then creating dishes or creating value bundles, deal bundles that actually give your existing customers greater perceived value for money. Now, there's two major reasons you're going to do this. One is, if you don't, you are going to lose existing customers, and you can't afford to do that now. So your primary objective at the moment should be to retain your existing customers even though some of them might have less money in their pockets, and you might be getting frustrated that people are coming in and asking, staff are starting to get questions about prices going up constantly, and maybe, is there a cheaper dish? Is there this? Is there that? Is there the other? And they're not buying the extras that they might have bought. They might not be buying as many rounds of drinks as they used to buy. They might be buying different drinks than they used to buy because, again, its absolute cost is that they're able to reduce their absolute spend. So retaining existing customers is absolutely paramount, because you want to serve your customers, right? That's what we do in hospitality. We put smiles on people's faces, but ultimately those customers are driving your cash flow. You don't want people walking away from you because you put your prices up so much and they've got less money in their pockets, so they just get pissed off and try somewhere else. So you've got to reinvent, reimagine, redesign menus, drink lists, whatever, or create value bundles where they get 2 or 3 things for a fixed price and they feel like they're getting really good value for money. Now, the other major benefit of doing this is that the other places that aren't actually really focused on value for money and are focused on just constantly putting their prices up haven't twigged this yet, right? And their customers are getting a bit twitchy and starting to look for other places to go. Now, we know from all of the supermarket research that's being conducted in the US and Europe, we don't see as much in Australia because it's not as we don't see it. The supermarkets will be seeing it. But what we want to do is take the opportunity of customers disappearing from other places, our competitors, looking for greater value. And at that time they're looking, we've got amazing value for money. And we're not only telling our existing customers about it through various communication strategies, but we're actually putting it out into the marketplace that's what we're doing. We've got these value deals, and we're putting out, whether it's Insta or Facebook, we're putting out both organic and importantly, at this moment in time, paid ads to target customers in our geographic target area about how much value for money we've got. Now, it's simple in words, but it's a little bit more complicated to make it happen. And making it happen, I suggest, is something that astute operators are doing. And if you want to be an astute operator, you should be doing. And you need to get your senior team around a table and literally brainstorm some of this stuff and see what you can come up with. There's no rocket science involved. If we didn't have all this stuff going on in the external world, and you were a bar, cafe, or restaurant that had a couple of new competitors open in your locality, and your revenue went down because your customers were starting to go and test out the new places, then they're the same sort of strategies that we would put in place in that scenario to grab your market share back, to grab your gross margin, your net margin, get your customers back so that you can continue to build your business. Now, that's it. That's the bite-sized chunk for today. Focus on value for money. Get your team together around the table. Consider the options you've got for redesigning dishes, introducing new dishes at a better price, looking at ingredients that are maybe more locally available, more seasonal, and focusing on those so that you can actually keep your absolute prices to customers as low as you can for your place. If you can be thinking about value for money for customers and not, my cogs are going up, I just need to keep putting the prices up, I'm not criticizing that, because it took me a while over the last 6 to 12 months to get clients to actually start pushing prices up. But it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. We've got inflation in the UK now over 12%, expected to be over 13% by October. We've got in the US, it's skyrocketing and they're going into recession. The UK is now forecasting recession. Australia, the only reason Australia is showing 3 point something % growth is because of resources, not because of real life in the high streets and main streets. Australia is in recession in a lot of places. The media is focused on the housing price crash. They'll be focused clearly on rising costs. That's really front of mind now. But consumers are being battered by this in the media, and they're saving money where they can. People who are on more money on higher income levels are actually saving more money now than they have for the last few years. There's some other stats on that. But they're also looking for greater value for money. And if you can create that magic of them seeing that they're getting the best value for money from you, their local, their regular place, then they're going to stay with you. They're more likely, there's a higher propensity they will stay with you. And if you don't, there's a higher chance they're going to go and find somewhere else where they might accept that they're not going to get their special dish or their special drinks or whatever from you, or their special experience and welcome that you give them. But they actually, right now, they just need to spend less money, but they don't want to not go out. So the switching from regular brands to discounters is real. We just saw on that chart 74% of people have traded down in the US in their supermarkets. It's going to be the next thing that we need to be aware of in the UK and Australia. And I really highly recommend getting your team around a table next week after the weekend when you go quiet a couple of days, and just asking the question, how can we improve the value for money to our customers while we maintain our margins and we stay profitable and we keep our cash flow kicking so that we stay alive, right? That's it. That's the daily specials board from DC. And please comment if you've stayed this long, or you've maybe just scrolled fast forwarded to the end to see what I said. Yeah, please put a comment. Let me know if you've got your own experience of successfully doing this, or reasons why you don't think it's possible. Let's just get a conversation going. The more conversations we can have about this stuff, the more ideas will get shared, and the more businesses will survive, and the really astute operators will definitely thrive. So let's do it, guys. Have a good weekend, and I'll be doing these next week. There's a newsletter out on Monday, and the next monthly briefing is Monday the 5th of September, where we cover all of the factors in the external environment that are having an impact on the industry, and how we might turn some of those around. And what else is going on? There's a free masterclass on Monday the 22nd, where I'm sharing 25 strategies to deal with rising costs and falling revenues. That's it. All right, I'm out of here.